Andy Wailagala, the president of NAJAS. I'm here with the full force, Makiko Murotani. We're really glad to have her because it may be one of our last NAJAS chair sessions. We are so sad that she's moving on after 18 very loyal, productive years, basically running from behind the scenes our network and organization. And the third amigo in our group at NAJAS is Mr. Niles Rogers. And Niles has been our very first fellow at NAJAS. He joined us in November, and he's really been the captain of this program, NAJAS Share, or NAJAS Share, which this is the third iteration. As I just confessed, I am the one responsible for the somewhat off name, but the concept is really simple, and it's in the two words there. This is about an opportunity through our network to share either trends, opportunities, some new connections that we've made that we want the network to be aware of, to do more for U.S.-Japan relations. Or secondly, to share best practices that are best practice in name, but maybe they haven't gotten around everywhere. So we wanted to aim it at those two objectives. And quite simply, it's also just a way of reaching out and connecting this far-flung network. 38 societies, 26 states, 11,000 members. And unfortunately, we only connect in person, and not with everybody, of course, just a selected group, once a year. So this was a way we thought to increase the connectivity, get to know each other a little bit better, and get that habit of reaching out and using the network effects that we have. It's also using the technology. Was a necessity through the COVID years. And we think it's a good tool to efficiently bring people together. As you heard or read the subscript there, we're recording this because we would like to share this throughout the network, and in this case, beyond the network, so others know about the really special connection and activities that we have. As mentioned, this is the third in the series. The first that kicked us off dealt with group travel. David Carpenter from JAS Kentucky led us through the inaugural session. And then in the second event, two of the folks on this call, Ryan Schaefer, our co-presenter, and Chip Meyer, talked about how sake can be used as a cultural promotional tool and an objective in itself, great pursuit. So those were our first two items, and we have more on tap. The whole idea is not for DC to the NAJAS office to throw out the next great topic, but actually just to set up a platform that the network will want to utilize to reach out and collaborate a little bit more. So on tap, we have our friends at JAS North Carolina who would like to do a management tips related program. Detroit and Southern Ontario, we're looking to do a trilateral spin, and two more that I'll just mention. We've come across an organization which uses health insurance benefits to be able to pay for affinity group memberships, like a Japan America Society or Japan Society membership. So we'd like to learn about how we might connect there. And then finally, an organization that a lot of us know quite well because our societies have served as hosts, and I'm referring to CIE and the Grassroots Summits. The next summit is taking place in July in Wakayama, Japan, and they're in the midst of a really serious recruitment push. And I think those colleagues would like to update on where they're at, what the attractions are, and to ask for a hand spreading the word on this great opportunity in the year of U.S.-Japan tourism, as it's been officially dubbed by JNTO and the Commerce Department, to get over to Japan. So that was a long wind up. I am very grateful to my colleagues, and in this case, particularly to Niles for being the captain of the series, and he's going to be the captain of the game today with our two great speakers, Mr. William Brooks, not to be confused with Dr. Bill Brooks, and Ryan Schaefer. So with that, I'll turn things over to you, please, Niles.
Thanks, Andy. Like we said, this is our third edition of our NAJAS webinar series. It's we're in the midst of winter, but as spring and Groundhog Day is around the corner, we figured it would be a great time to talk about United States and Japan through the lens of athletics, and specifically in this case, baseball. Through the grapevine, we've heard about some of the kind of the initiatives and projects that William Brooks and the Japan Retired Foreign Players Association have been up to. And with his, I guess, activities and kind of collaboration with our own Ryan Schaefer, we figured it would be a great way and a great topic for us to explore for this third edition of our webinar series. So we want to thank William and Ryan for making the connection and making the time here today to speak to us. And we hope you enjoy a little bit about what Ryan has to say, as well as what William has to say in terms of his organization, how they're working towards making connections and making opportunities for retired athletes in Japan post their playing careers in terms of opportunities, careers, and other involvements that can help them fulfill their careers and their lives post playing and post being on the field. So thank you. We hope you enjoy. And the way this will go is that we'll have William and Ryan speak, and then at the end of the webinar, we'll have a short Q&A portion or question and answer portion. So if you have any questions, please feel free to express them or say them towards the end, and we'll do our best to answer them as best as we can. So that's a little bit from me. We hope you enjoy. And without further ado, I'd like to transition to Ryan about what he would like to say today.
I'm going to defer actually right over to William and give him opening statement, if that's okay, William.
Okay.
Sure, no problem. Everyone, nice to meet you. My name is William. I am joining you today from Orlando, Florida. Just a little bit about myself. I spent over 25 years in Japan, both in college and for 2 years, and then after that professionally. Moved back to the US in 2020. We started the Japan Retired Foreign Players Association in November of 2018, and we did it for a couple reasons. I guess the biggest reason we created the organization was because once the players retire or leave their Japanese team, no one knows why they left, when they left, and what they're doing now. So I thought, as a fan, a disclaimer, I'm not a professional baseball player. I was an abysmal player in high school. I think in 4 years, I only had one or two chances to play in a game in varsity. But being a fan of the game and seeing an opportunity to create a conduit between the fans and the gentlemen or the players after they retire, we just jumped at the chance. So in 2018, created the organization. We have 310 former non-Japanese. So all of the guys that are in the Japan Retired Foreign Players Association are non-Japanese, but played in the MPB. And we created the organization with a gentleman by the name of Gene Backey, who since passed away 3 years ago. He played for the Hanshin Tigers in the 60s, and actually is one of two Americans to have won the Japanese equivalent of the Cy Young. And he gave me, we met over Facebook, and he kind of talked to me about, William, this is a great thing, you should do it. So we did it. We're up to 310 members. We do a lot of things. We're in our fifth year, the last 4 years, although we did have COVID, that took a lot of that time. The first year, we did a lot of events in Japan. We did 15 events in Japan where we brought over guys to Japan to do events, signings, card signings, events, corporate events, clinics, baseball cards, the whole 9 yards. It was really good. And then COVID hit. And then we kind of shifted to intellectual property and managing the rights of the former players with, for example, video game makers like Bandai Namco and Konami, who are, as of today, are two of our biggest clients, and actually are probably around 60 to 70% of our revenue. So I moved over to Japan, and I moved over back to the States, and we wanted to create kind of the second phase of our business. And so we're going to create the US version of the Japan Retired Foreign Players Association here in Japan. But being in the phase that we are now, we're really keen on creating kind of baseball ambassadors to do outreach programs with universities, Japan American societies, high schools. We have a very good relationship with the Major League Baseball Alumni Association. So we've been doing some things with them as well. And they're based out of Tampa. But Ryan's been great over the last year in really assisting us and getting involved with the Japan American Society community and hosting Murakami-san, who was the first MLB player, as with Rhodes, who played in Japan for over 10 years. And for a non-Japanese, holds the record for most home runs in Japan. And so based on that, we've had some great success with a couple universities in the United States, Florida International University. We're actually doing a really interesting program right now with William and Mary. They received an endowment from the State Department. And we are doing an oral history project where we're taking 15 of our members and we are doing 2-hour interviews, and we're going to categorize and library that so students, fans can view the stories of various non-Japanese ball players and their experiences in Japan. So I just, was interested in this opportunity because we really want to get our guys out there into the communities and do things to help give back. I mean, so many of the guys in the organization are so keen in giving back to Japan, but it's very expensive to get the guys over there with accommodations and things in upwards of $10,000, $12,000 just to get someone there. So we did think last year that it was a good idea to start setting up shop in the United States and hitting the communities with a high concentration of Japanese expats, as well as getting involved in organizations like the Japan American Society. And so we've got very good relations with the Japan American Society in Miami, Ryan in Washington, and we are invited to Alabama last November with Alabama native Boomer Wells, who is the first Triple Crown winner, a non-Japanese and the only non-Japanese to win the Triple Crown in Japan. So that's kind of what we're doing, why we started the organization. And by setting up our American business, we will be able to also incorporate Japanese nationals who played in the MLB. So we're currently talking to Uehara, Okajima, Matsui about being board members and working closely with the Japan Retired Foreign Players Association here in the United States as well, which would give us both sides and allow us to really capitalize on the opportunity that we have. And I live about 15 minutes from Uehara, and we've become pretty good friends over the last couple of weeks. It was really recent that we got in touch with him, and he's absolutely over the moon with what we're doing. We've received great feedback. So that's what we're doing. Very interested in possibly working with you all, doing clinics in the areas that you are in, speaking engagements with the gentlemen that are members of the organization. But essentially, you could think of us as a management company or an agency for retired players, baseball players who played in Japan. And then, as we move into this next phase of our business, creating the opportunity for these guys to essentially become baseball or cultural ambassadors between the United States and Japan.
Cool.
Thank you, William, for that very descriptive and informative information session about your organization, what you're doing, and what you hope to do going forward with JRFPA. So very involving and very, I think, interesting and worthwhile to know about going forward. I want to transition now from William back to our own Ryan Schaefer about his words and what he has to say about the organization and what they, we can maybe expect or get to know going forward. Ryan?
Okay, thank you. And thanks, William, both for your partnership on our gala event in last October, but also for what the organization is doing. I think I just wanted to kind of present William's organization from the perspective of a Japan America society that has worked with him, or I should say with them, and maybe explain what we did with our gala last October as a little bit of a blueprint for what other Japan America societies might wish to replicate. And then a few thoughts on the value of the NAJAS and Japan Retired Foreign Players Association partnerships going forward. But just to kind of touch on the nuts and bolts that will probably resonate with other Japan America Society folks. We host the Japan America Society of Washington, D.C. hosts our gala every October. And one of the key challenges or opportunities, I suppose, with the gala is to identify great speakers that will resonate with our audience, that our sponsors of the event will be excited about. Where if you take a photo, with your ball players and your sponsors, they'll be excited. They'll have something to hang on the wall and show back to Tokyo. At any rate, so that was basically the approach that we took. What we did was, in essence, built around simply working with William to bring in ball players that we thought would be good, attractive speakers for our event. And then we sort of built around that core. So our gala, we have about 250 people. It's not a heavy sponsorship type of fundraiser event like some galas are. It's more of, for better or for worse, it's more of just a big party in Washington, D.C. that celebrates U.S.-Japan. But it's great that we're able to, that being the case, to use the platform of the gala to remind people that, especially in a city like Washington, D.C., where we tend to think of our superstars as a member of the administration or a member of Japan's government or diet or something like that. To remind ourselves that the real superstars, or a whole different family of equally important superstars, are the cultural figures who are sort of symbols of what Japanese and American people love about each other. So the two individuals that we happen to have, as William mentioned, at our event, featured at our event, were Mashi Murakami, first Japanese baseball player in the major leagues, and Tuffy Rhodes. There's been a lot of great American and foreign baseball players that have made their mark in Japan, but there's something about the Tuffy Rhodes story that sticks out, in that I think he may be the most recognized, or definitely one of the most recognized American players to play in Japan, and still holds the lead for foreigners, all-time home run lead among foreigners in Japan. Anyway, so to have those two guys on the stage together was special. I think from the Japan Retired Foreign Players Association perspective, it's it's a helpful way to raise the profile of these individuals. And in the case of these sorts of gala events, it may raise the profile among people who aren't necessarily otherwise the ones on the field or purchasing tickets to go see the games. It's a reminder to people in this case that, yeah, there was a ball player before Otani and even before Nomo, and that was Murakami, who I think doesn't really get the recognition that he deserves for his accomplishments. And then in terms of Tuffy Rhodes, you could say similar things. I'm not sure that he gets the kind of fanfare and celebration in the Japan community that he really deserves for what he did in Japanese professional baseball. Anyway, so wonderful cultural ambassadors, wonderful opportunity to promote them and what they've done. I think that if it's not arrogant of me to say it, I think it was an event that kind of opened the door a crack wider to Americans viewing these two individuals, and maybe Japanese viewing these two individuals as deeply important to the bilateral relationship. Anyway, so I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be extremely positive to repeat that sort of experience across the country. I guess to turn back to the nuts and bolts of what we did. So we invited them to be featured speakers for us. As a point of fact, Mashi Murakami was the one with the prepared speech, and an interpreter, and we sort of imposed upon Tuffy Rhodes at the last minute to say, hey, would you please get up on stage too and just give us a quick toast. But it was totally awesome. The two of them on stage, back to back, giving their perspectives. It's great. I showed the pictures. We had a pre-gala event for the sponsors that help underwrite the event. A little private photo meet and greet photo opportunity. Really fun opportunity to hear some stories from both Mashi and Tuffy. And they both have totally amazing stories to tell, as I'm sure every ball player does, and especially foreign baseball players in Japan. Beyond that, in DC, we helped to organize some introductions to other community organizations for whom the opportunity to meet with these ball players was special. And some of the ones we were thinking of, not all of which materialized, were, the Nationals have a training camp in DC that is sort of an opportunity to elevate kids and show them how baseball could be their pathway to a better future. We worked with the Nationals to hook up Tuffy Rhodes with that group. We have a local Japanese cultural organization that teaches expat children about Japanese culture, to make sure that they know what culture they're going back to when their families go home, and for them to meet Mashi Murakami was a totally great experience. I think special for the ball players too. Anyway, so that's a little bit scattershot, but basically some of the puts a little flesh on the bones in terms of what we did with the ball players, hopefully to generate some ideas of what somebody else might do. But then just reflecting for a minute, and I don't want to go on too long and wear out my welcome, but to me, I think the point here is the partnership between Japan America Societies and Japan Retired Foreign Players Association is just one that will yield positive results that benefit both JRFPA, hopefully, but also the Japan America Society that they're networking with or engaging with. And the reason is, their JRFPA is an inherently national organization, right? Ball players don't have borders. Maybe there are some local affiliations, but Mashi Murakami may have played in San Francisco, but he's important to all of us across the country and in Japan. And there really is only one Japan network that spans the country, and that's the NAJAS network. So we're organizations that have local knowledge, local contacts, both with the Japan community, but with many of us have connections in the baseball community as well. So this is just one of these partnerships where I'm certain that putting JRFPA together with the Japan America Society or similar organizations will yield positive results. I think, let's see through my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, I would similarly point out, or the other organization that has that kind of national reach in promoting Japan in the United States is, of course, the embassy and its consulates. But even there's some pretty tidy overlap with Japan America societies. So probably in many cases, there's a bit of a trilateral, if you will, kind of three-way relationship that could benefit all parties involved. Anyway, I'll stop there. And if anybody has sort of questions for me, I would suggest probably more important to get questions in with William, but I'm happy to kind of elaborate on our experience at any rate for what it's worth.
Yeah, hi, William. This is Richard Rayford. I'm a new board member at NAJAS. And first of all, I want to thank you for coming to speak with us, but also thank you for establishing this organization, which I think is a wonderful effort and it's something which, is dear to my heart because I think that the baseball as a unifier and a common cultural passion of the U.S. and Japan is way up there on the list. I had gone to Japan for the first time to Kyoto at Doshisha University and was purportedly the first foreigner to join the Nanshiki Yaku baseball club at Doshisha University, and that's kind of the softer ball version of baseball that they play in the fields. And it was just a wonderful experience for me, and making friends in that organization. And I was a Hanshin Tigers fan, of course, at that time, and I really thought it was just so important for my own development to be able to share that. Since you held up a prop, this is my team at Doshisha University with me in the in the center there. But it was very very meaningful. What I wanted to ask you was in terms of the numbers. You said you had 310 members in your Foreign Players Association. I don't know what that represents in terms of the overall number that's out there. And sort of a corollary question is, I remember at the time when I was there in 1982, there were 3 players allowed per team, and most of the teams maxed out those players. And I don't know if those rules have changed, and also just in general, whether you've noticed anything different over the years about what the perception is of foreign players in Japan vis-a-vis when you first got involved.
Yeah, to answer the first question, I would say yes, the rules have changed. You're allowed 7 players now. And a lot of the teams have created second teams and even third teams, as well as developmental teams. And so a lot of the teams, for example, SoftBank Hawks and Hiroshima Carp have established, even Chunichi Dragons have established academies in the Dominican Republic. So right now you're seeing a huge influx of Dominicans into the Japan game for a couple reasons. I think obviously the largest or the biggest reason is just cost. They're not as expensive as a AAA or a AA American ball player. I think also the ease or the receptiveness of a younger kind of a raw talent to the Japanese game, and not coming in with bad habits or some preconceived notion that I played in the MLB and yeah, we should be treated differently. I think that's changed the whole perception of the foreigner in Japan. And you obviously with the WBC wins, you're seeing a huge advancement in the way the game is played, how big the players are now. I mean, look at Otani. Otani could easily, I mean, he's bigger than most of the American players now, and the Murakami, who probably will be up Yeah, on the posting system in the next 2 years. He's huge as well. So you haven't, I think it's fair to say, and I don't quote me on this, but I think it's fair to say you haven't seen a 30 home run non-Japanese batter in probably the last 10 to 10 years, I would say. In fact, I would say that, or I know for a fact that last year there wasn't a foreigner in the top 5 in the home run category in Japan. So Japanese are getting better, obviously, and the non-Japanese playing in Japan aren't at the caliber that they were back when Cromartie and Bass and O'Malley and Distrade were there. I mean, there's a huge discrepancy, and so I think the Japanese have caught up, and so the game is more interesting. But I don't think that the Japanese teams look to have that that foreigner that's going to come in and hit 40, 35, 40 home runs anymore. They're more looking for a guy he's kind of a slap hitter, can hit doubles, connect, get runs in, small baseball type of guys. Yeah. So the game, to be honest with you, is not as exciting for me personally, in my opinion, that it was when I first got to Japan in my first experience was 1995. And that was just amazing. And then, in the 2000s, that was a different era. Early 2000s, obviously, Tuffy Rhodes almost tying, he tied Sadahara O. But you're not seeing that big, powerful, home run hitter anymore. Which I think is kind of cool because you're seeing Japanese come up, and that's great. That's great for the game. And that's one of the reasons why we created the organization, because I didn't want younger kids to forget the contribution that the guys in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s made to the game to get Japan to the level that they are at now. And that was exactly one of the reasons why we created the organization, so people wouldn't forget about them. And bringing the guys over and the kids coming up to the guys. And, I one thing that really sticks in my mind is we did an event with the Oryx Buffaloes in Osaka with Ralph Bryant. And we had this girl, and she came up to us in the event, and she was crying. And she was probably around 45 years old, and she was crying. She said, "William, thank you so much for doing this. I loved Ralph Bryant when I was a kid. My parents were so poor, I couldn't go to Fujidera Kyujo to watch the game. I wanted to buy all this stuff, and you've made this." I mean, that type of thing really gets to me, and really, kind of hits home on why we created the organization. And that's happened like several times. So it's been really cool, and I like it. It really gives us the impetus to move forward. And it's not a lot of the Japanese teams and fans think that the guys going over to Japan are just in it for the money. And I can tell you unequivocally that's not the case. You have many non-Japanese players that actually regret that they had a bad attitude, or they didn't hustle, or they got cut because of that. And so I have a lot of guys, that are contrite in their experience, and they want to kind of, give back and kind of resurrect their reputation or their career. And so that's some things that we do as well.
Can I tag on to that? Sorry, Rich, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, last follow-up. Do you have any idea, an estimate of the overall population of?
It's around 1,800. It's around 1,800. It's around 1,800. So
you've got quite a few, 16%. Yeah.
In fact, a very interesting fact is that the first non-Japanese to play in Japan was actually an African American named James Bonner, who played for he didn't play for the Tokyo Giants, but he played for the team before the Giants were created, and he was a pitcher, and he played for 2 weeks. And so when we were at 2 weeks, and then he went back to the States. But when we were doing this event at William and Mary, we had an alumni, and he asked the panel, what do you guys think of James Bonner? And blah, blah. No one could answer the question. And so I was in the audience, and I just raised my hand. And it was amazing that, that we had some historians and things that were on the panel that had no idea who James Bonner was. In fact, it's very interesting, Negro League baseball players. There are quite a few in Japan, to be honest with you. And we actually are talking to the Negro League Museum at the moment about possibly doing an event. And in Birmingham, the Consul General, I forgot his name, last November when he invited Boomer Wells and myself. We went to the Birmingham Barons. We went to Rickwood Field, and we also were able to see the Negro League Museum that they have there, which was really cool. In fact, you know, Murakami-san played with Willie Mays, and Willie Mays played with the Birmingham Barons for a while.
Wow.
So I mean, this whole connection and the things that we're doing, and like the different angles and how history and you know, it's been really great. And that's why, you know, I came back to the United States from Japan during COVID, and but just something in my mind thought, you know, we really need to do what we're doing in Japan and the United States as well, because then we just come full circle, and there's that connection that and that bridge that would really allow us to create, you know, ambassadors, and this whole idea of baseball diplomacy and is something I really want to take forward.
To just sort of tag on to that and maybe add my own little vignette from having worked with Mashi Murakami and Tuffy Rhodes. You know, I lived in Japan from 2001 to 2003, and that was just at the time that Tuffy Rhodes was poised to break the all-time single season home run record. And it was an ugly incident, actually, and not really a proud moment. I think for anybody involved, except maybe Tuffy. You know, basically the Japanese pitchers at the point that Tuffy would have broken the record, out of respect to Sadaharu, they basically stopped pitching to him. They walked him, so he never had a chance to break the record. And my recollection from that period, which may be stilted or maybe not be fully accurate, was that there was some controversy around that, you know, and I think, you know, there were some there was an attitude that was sort of attributed to Tuffy Rhodes that may have been accurate, may have been somewhat unfair, probably a little of both. But you know, the fact is, this is a man who by all rights is you know, a baseball legend in Japan, but when he left Japan, his reputation was sort of unsettled because of that fact or that incident. And so when I spoke to him, I fully expected him to have kind of ambivalence about Japan, but you know what? I think that every foreigner that goes to Japan basically has their own version of that experience, and when they come home, you know, the experience that sticks with us is, oh, that's such a great place. I really love that place. I mean, there's so many things I love about it, and of course, you know, Tuffy Rhodes is no different. He speaks very fluent Japanese. He wouldn't profess to, but the fact is he does. He's expert in all the things in Japanese culture that you would expect somebody to who lived there for a very, very long time. So that was deeply impressive. That you know, that and emphasizes why it's so important to sort of, for our organizations, to push that door open as wide as it can, because these are important people to our relationship, you know, and in some ways it's more important for them coming back. The opportunities are different, you know. But the other impressive thing about Tuffy that I came away with was, I asked him, you know, if you were playing in Japan today and you had the opportunity to break that record, which has since been broken, do you think that you would encounter the same thing? Would they not pitch to you? And he said, no chance. The game is different, the attitude is different, and just like William is alluding, it's changed. You know, it's changed. And anyway, so there again, somebody like Tuffy Rhodes was really a history maker and one of the people that helped pave that road. You know, one of those roads, or build one of those bridges, you know, is a metaphor that we like to use between US and Japan, especially on the baseball field.
That's sort of ironic, you know, to think about that history and the local reaction, because the record that was being broken was itself set by a Japanese foreign player, right? Sadaharu is Taiwanese.
Exactly.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Those were two great presentations, and I just wanted to pick up on one piece. Ryan started it out by making the quintessential Beltway comment by saying our superstars are often political figures when the cultural ones actually carry a lot more sway in a lot more places. And then Bill also picked up on it when he was talking about Boomer Wells' program and the impact that visit made. I heard about it secondhand, but it was Mark Jackson is the honorary consul.
Mark Jackson, yes.
And he had his heart set on a retired ambassador to keynote his gala, and he was just convinced that would really move the needle and pull people in. Yeah. And it was going to be hard to do, but I was a little bit suspicious that in Birmingham that would really have the sway that he wanted to have. Yeah. And about that time, I'd gotten in touch with Ryan, and he said, we're planning this event at the gala. You really need to get in touch with Bill Brooks and see if you can't make a connection. And I heard back that was the largest, most popular event in that society's history. So I don't think that's lost on most of our network, but I just underscore that point. This is a rich vein that we don't look to nearly enough, I think.
Yeah, no, it was a good event. In fact, I just got an email during this conversation from the Consul General in Atlanta, who we met at Mark Jackson's gala, and he's invited Ralph, me, and Boomer to the Emperor's birthday on the 23rd of February. So, yeah, no, it was a good event, and the reception was fabulous, and it was good. And he's from Alabama, so it worked out really well.
Yeah, yeah.
Bill,
and Ryan mentioned galas. If the network is interested in initiating something with you, youth baseball exchanges, is that a good vehicle? What kind of ideas would lead to some sort of opportunity for more collaboration?
Yeah, youth baseball, clinics or things would be great. What I'm really keen on doing, if it's possible, is actually creating a golf invitational, the JRFPA Golf Invitational, because most baseball players play golf, and a lot of people play golf, and not so much softball or baseball, but getting guys together and get groups together from the Japanese community, the Japan American societies, and having a golf invitational. We're looking to do it in Florida with the consulate. I'm actually going down there in March, early March, to talk initially about how it would look. But we would like to replicate that in various cities where there's a Japan American society and a high concentration of Japanese, not only Japanese nationals, but obviously Americans and non-Americans who live in the States that are interested in Japanese culture and mingling and getting involved. And I think that might be a great way to do. Like, for example, we did it in November of last year. Murakami-san has a golf invitational every year. And so we did the golf invitational, we did an auction, and then we did a dinner at the end, and it was for charity, and 100% of the proceeds went to, he's involved with the United Nations, with something with regards to refugees, and so that went to that. So something where we could kind of give back, but also making an event where we can get together and we have maybe, I don't know, 5, 6, 7. We pair the members with people, and they can golf and just kind of have a day out. That's something we're really interested in doing. That was something that came up in one of our board meetings a couple of weeks ago. But yeah.
Great stuff indeed. Great stuff indeed. Does anybody else have any other questions they'd like to ask or raise since anything else? All right, go ahead, Chip.
So what kinds of fees, if any, are involved with having the members or Japanese retired baseball players speak at an event? I don't know. Is that part of the business model for JFRPA?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. For the gala with Mark Jackson, he paid $1,000 for Boomer's appearance, and Boomer drove from Georgia to Alabama. This isn't a money grab, so we're not you know, whatever is, yeah. I mean, the guys aren't in it for the money. They just want to be compensated, you know, have the hotel paid. For example, William and Mary, every guy we send to William and Mary for the oral history, and they pay for their flight and they pay for their hotel, their accommodations. That's it. And I pay for my own way because I like to go and accompany everyone. But it's not something that's going to break the bank. And we're pretty open right now. I think we need to get what we're doing there. We need to just get out there, get us out there. But, you know, this isn't like Derek Jeter going to do an event where he's charging 10,000 or David Ortiz or Pedro Martinez. It's nothing like that. Yeah. I think
Also,
quite
it's
reasonable,
also
quite flexible.
I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, but it's also a partnership. So it's not like, you know, I remember Japan Society Southern California had Otani for their gala a few years back. And this was before Otani was really Otani, but they paid so much for the agent fee that they effectively didn't make any money on the event.
Yeah.
But that was the agent fee, and then basically they paid for it. They paid for it. He was there, you know, Otani-san was theirs to use. This isn't quite like that because I think it's more about a partnership between organizations, and frankly, one that I think worked really well. Here we produced a baseball that we gave to all of our members.
Yeah, which is really cool.
With our logo on one side and JRFPA's logo on the other side.
Yeah.
So it was great because there's a mingling of audiences. I think the JRFPA folks are like, oh, who the heck are these guys? And of course, vice versa. So anyway, that was the way that we approached the event for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bill, what do you anticipate will be the take up on your mirror image on the Japan retired players?
Here in the United States,
Yeah.
you know, the reception has been great. In fact, this isn't public knowledge, but there's 2 gaming companies that are coming out with 2 mobile games this year in April that will feature for the first time Japanese retired MLB players, and that's something that we did. And so it's a great opportunity for us to, you know, at the timing around when that game goes out, we'll create that. We haven't created the entity yet in the States. We're going to do that next month. So yeah, no, I think it'll be great. I think it'll be great, and it'll allow things to come full circle. And the one other thing that we mustn't forget is the relationship with the MLB Players, Retired Players Association, the alumni. And we're talking right now of doing, for example, Uehara, most of the Japanese guys who played in the States are members of the MLB Alumni Association as well. So teaming them with their former Japanese teammates who are members of the JRFPA and doing events as well. I'm excited. I think there's a bit of jealousy there on the Japan side, and the Japan thinking, why did this guy who has no affiliation with baseball start this organization, and why didn't we do it? So yeah, I get a little bit of pushback right now. It's starting to get a little bit competitive, which is good. But yeah, it's fun. But we're creating you know, affiliations, creating relationships with organizations in Japan, here in the States, and you know, I like the trajectory of our business and where we're at, and the competition is good. But I think we've proved to our members over the last 5 years that we're in it for the long run, and we're committed. For example, the gaming revenue, we put 60% of the gaming revenue goes back into, for example, flights and things. That's why we don't charge an agency fee. So if I bring a guy over, for example, we're bringing over Craig Brazel, who played for the Hanshin Tigers back in the mid 2000s, and we pay his, you know, we find an anchor sponsor, but we pay for the flights, we pay for the accommodations, and you know, after that we recoup that money, and then after that it goes to the player. So the gaming is our bread and butter, and keeps the lights on, but also allows us to expand on what we're doing.
You have a name for the new association, and are you at liberty to share it with us?
It's actually the name is the same, because if you look at it, it's just looking at it from a different side. It's the Japan Retired Foreign Players Association. just on the other side of the coin. But we're also creating a sister organization called the Legends Players Club, which is there's a Japan, it's called the Golden Players Club, which is the creme de la creme of retired players. And we're going to create that here in the States as well. So we'll probably have 20 to 30 members of the JRFPA who are record holders in Japan, who actually are probably the most marketable as well, because all 310 members aren't marketable in Japan or even in the United States. And so that will be coming out in probably this summer. We're working on the logo and things of that nature. And I'll be sitting for my Major League Baseball Players Association license in July of this year. And we're going to start doing player representation as well. So bringing guys over from the States to Japan, which you don't need a license for right now, but it's better to have. And then obviously Japanese over to the United States. And then the company will have 3 pillars. We'll have the Legends Players Club, which is the creme de la creme of the retired players who played in Japan. We'll have the JRFPA, which is basically a fraternity of anybody who played in Japan where they can join. And then we'll have the agency business as well. And so it's kind of cradle to grave. We introduce you to Japan. You play in Japan. When you retire, we'll help you out, and we'll keep your legacy alive. Yeah, here in the States and in Japan.
Exciting.
Yeah. We have members from Taiwan and Korea as well, but predominantly we're probably 60% US at the moment.
Mhm.
Stuff indeed. Stuff indeed. I had a question I wanted to ask William. I guess I'm more so of a basketball type of person, so I constantly compare what's going on with, I guess, grassroots basketball stuff here, what's going on in Japan, and with baseball, vice versa. And when watching the NBA today, I noticed that it's kind of the opposite of what's going on in Japan right now. A lot of players from overseas are very dominant right now, so much so that people are kind of having some, I guess, grievances, you can call it, about things like the NBA or even college, about kind of the lack of American, I guess, talent, or as it once was, the last 4 or 5 MVPs or most valuable players were from foreign countries, like Greece or Serbia of Nikola Jokic. I wonder, because you say Japanese players are more so dominant now than they were compared to when American players were. Do you see that changing anytime soon? Is there will there be a reverse course?
I will say basketball at the moment in Japan, it's a very exciting time to get involved with basketball in Japan. I would equate the current state of Japanese basketball to probably what baseball was in the 80s. It's kind of it's really cool, and especially in the high school level. High school, obviously, Koshien, the baseball tournament, but there also is a basketball tournament. It's kind of the equivalent to Koshien. And they're actually recruiting, Japanese high schools are recruiting in Africa, in Senegal, and Ghana, and bringing in exchange students to play basketball to help elevate, at the high school level as well. There's a lot of former NBA players that a lot of people don't know about that actually played in the Japanese Professional Basketball League. In fact, there's one guy named DeAnthony Langston, who's a good friend of mine. I met in LA. He was actually the purple monster in Space Jam, the original Space Jam. He played in Japan. Josh Childress played in Japan. Josh Childress played in Japan. There's a lot. And then there's a lot of Americans who played played at UCLA or Oregon or wherever, in the SEC even, and that went to Japan and then naturalized, became Japanese nationals, and actually on the national team. So it's a very exciting time for basketball in Japan. I did once think about starting the Retired Foreign Players Association for basketball, for non-Japanese basketball players, but we'll just stick with baseball for now. But if you ever have the opportunity to get involved, and I do know some people, it's a very exciting time to get involved in basketball in Japan and in Asia. They've created in Asia basically what's the equivalent of the Premier League in soccer, or I'm sorry, the Champions League in soccer, and they've created an Asian version of it. And it's starting to really gain traction, and it's really cool. And the level is I mean, increased. If you just compare, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I remember going to some games, but right now it's they're building arenas, 20,000 person seat arenas. Before they were playing in like city gyms where they're like 2,000 people. But yeah, it's a very exciting time for basketball, and I view it as like baseball was probably in the 80s, in the early 90s in Japan. Even football, American football, there's former NFL players that are playing in the Japanese XFL at the moment. So yeah, I know there's a tackle who played for the Denver Broncos. There was a quarterback who played for UCLA. One played for Stanford. I mean, there's some football is although niche, it's really coming along as well. I think it's kind of for Japan sports going forward. I think it's really exciting, to be honest with you. But I'll stick with baseball because that's what I know and that's what we're kind of good at. And yeah, I'm a Celtics fan. I love basketball as well, but yeah.
Great stuff indeed. Great stuff indeed. Great. Well, I guess if any last questions, any final parting thoughts or comments anyone wants to make, or if
Just
not,
a question of contact, how interested parties, William, would get in touch with you, or I think I'm already connected with everybody, so one channel is me. I'm happy to be the conduit to you, but what would you recommend?
Yeah, I'll just put my email in the chat. I'm happy if you're a conduit as well. We'd love to do some things. I know there's only 2 of you on the call, but it only starts with one. Only need one to start, and yeah, hopefully we can do something, and it'd be great. Yeah, most of our are in Florida and Arizona.
Yeah. Echo my thanks to both presenters and Niles for a fine job, and the few hardy souls who participated. And again, just go back to that NAJAS share concept. It was word of mouth that spread through Ryan to involve several other societies, and we're going to just put a little bit of a megaphone on that word of mouth. We've recorded the session. I'm going to do my best to report back to the network that baseball diplomacy is alive and well, and we got a real champion in Bill, and great opportunities to tap into it. It's not just one model. We can be quite entrepreneurial in coming up with activities that are mutually useful. So yeah, thanks everybody.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the opportunity. We appreciate it.
yeah, thank you everyone for joining. I certainly learned a lot today about kind of the history of baseball in Japan and what it means today even going forward. So I definitely learned a lot, and I'll definitely be looking up some of those players as well as some of the teams and kind of what is going on currently. So thank you for your time, and thank you for the history lessons that you shared with us today. We really appreciate it. Definitely.
No problem. Thank you so much.
As the book goes, you got to
talk, guys.
That's right.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.